Hello everyone, I'm Amelia Rose. I'm the author of the Shadow of Light series, and I made a slideshow on Canva to show more of how the magic works because there's a lot more lore to it than I ever really show in the books, but I spent 6 hours creating it, so therefore it shall be showed. Um, now I forgot to make a slide about this, but there's natural magic, which is a person's magic that they're born with the ability to use. So the most common magic that is talked about is elemental, which is fire, water, lightning, all of that. Astral or celestial, which is sun, moon, stars, galaxy. Spiritual, which is life, death, light, dark, mind. So, elemental magic primarily focuses on the elements of nature. Um, Henry Torres and Michael Collins both have lightning as their natural magic, but if I remember correctly, Michael is better at summoning actual lightning. His main attack is summoning actual lightning and sparks, whereas Henry's is more subtle and it's smaller sparks, smaller lightning that he can combine with water to expand. They can both do all the same things with their natural magic, but one would have an easier time with something else. As I said here, as an example, if two people have the same natural magic, which is earth, one would have the ability to control plants and have an easier time moving the physical earth, while the other might have more control over animals. The specialization is different with each person, and it can't really be influenced. It's all just luck of the draw. Now with astral magic, they hold some command over the magic of the moon and the sun, and a few are born with the ability to command magic from distant stars. I don't believe this is ever really explained in the series, but the moon and sun each hold kind of a unique magic, and each sun or star that we see distant, often through telescopes, they all hold a unique magic. And a few are born with the ability to command magic from all the stars, which is the star astral magic. They're rare. The magic is very volatile, and so therefore, and this happens with spiritual magic as well, they often don't survive infancy, but when they do, they tend to be very strong. And anyone can learn any type of magic. So any character can learn astral magic. Savannah Affy from Savannah's Story was learning astral magic from Alice McAllister before she died. She was learning it. But when all three astral magics are mastered, it's often referred to as galaxy magic. So magic from the moon, from the star that's closest to our planet, and then everything else as well. And there's been one instance of a child, I spelled that wrong, I said once instead, oops. But there's been one instance of a child born with galaxy magic as their natural magic, and most believe it to be just a legend. Um, I will spoil now. There is one person in the series who has been born with galaxy magic as their natural magic. Um, it's just they haven't shown up yet, and I'm not entirely sure they will ever show up in any big capacity in the main season, Jesus. But spiritual magic is the kind of magic that is almost focused on the most in the Shadow of Light series, because a lot of the magic of the character tends to correspond to some mental trait or physical trait that they have. For example, light and life magic are often considered the same thing, but they don't always have to be. But Lily Yuri, a character in Little Rose, she has, I believe, light as her natural magic. I can't remember what I wrote down. It's either light or life. And she's a very bright person. She's protective. She's kind, and she can heal. And she is genuinely a good person. But her issue is she's too trusting. She doesn't know when to say no. She doesn't know when to back off. She'll essentially harm herself to help others, even when those people don't deserve her help. And that's a common theme with those who use light magic. With dark magic, it's slightly different to death magic, although they overlap a lot. Dark magic would tend to focus on using shadows or being able to traverse through shadows. We see Sophia Leone do this in Child of Night. She shadow walks, and death magic tends to concern spirits, so necromancy. And those with dark and death magic tend to struggle with mental health. So spiritual magic is very dangerous, and oftentimes, um, just like with astral magic, it is very volatile, and they often don't survive infancy because it'll manifest during temper tantrums or when a baby is hungry. They'll, if they're left for too long, they might have their magic explode, and it will cause, although not damage to themselves, it'll cause damage to their environment, which could then harm them. Mind magic, so Destiny Jewel from Forest Keepers has mind magic, and it focuses on telepathy and memories mainly, and those who have mind magic have premonitions and are able to read people more easily. So Destiny can tell what a person is destined for with a touch. When she grabs someone and she uses her magic, or just when she was little, it would happen naturally. She knows if they're destined for something great, they're going to live very long, if they're going to become powerful, if they're just going to be kind of an average person. I think I just breathed straight into the mic. But she knows, she can detect that with just a touch, and that's why her name is Destiny, because in her tribe, in her mother's family, your first name isn't decided at birth, it's decided once your talent or something that is important to you happens, when it shows up. So when Destiny was 5, she was able to communicate her power, and so they named her Destiny. And until then, she was referred to as her middle name, Moira, which she no longer responds to, and she actually kind of hates it. Um, Mind magic doesn't really have a physical manifestation. With most magics, when it's manifested, it either tends to be, for example, with earth through vines, or the person's magical aura. Um, Mia Enar's daughter from Child of Night, when she kind of exploded her magic to create a shield around the school, her magic aura was a certain color, and her eyes actually shifted to that color. And that color is just unique to every person. Sometimes it can be the same, sometimes it's not. Um, Twins tend to have this, like, a very similar color magical aura. But the few times mind magic has been recorded as having a physical manifestation, like it turns into something, or the person doesn't use their magical aura to signify that they're using their magic, because it doesn't always show up. The color has been either gold or lapis blue, which is why in history lapis and gold were considered magical elements or magical gemstones and metals, because mind magic, the few times it was recorded, it was a big explosion of those colors. And it used to be more common, but a few hundred years ago, it became rare. Most users disappeared without notice, and no one has been able to figure out what happened to them. Now, there are other magics that are not natural magics. There's runic magic, which, as the runes that are shown are Nordic runes. They are they're typically done protection. Once a person knows the runes, they can cast using them. They can cast really whatever they want, but a parent might stitch runes into their child's clothing to protect them, or um, someone might paint runes or bury rocks with runes etched into them on a property to cast protection or cast a detection spell. And it is not a natural magic. That is something that has to be learned. Now, blood magic is very deadly, often results in the death of the caster or the sacrifice, because it does require a lot of blood. Those who are skilled in blood magic can cast these spells without taking a life, but it requires a lot of concentration. They're often out of the game, so to speak, for days, weeks, months, and on a few occasions, even years after they cast that spell, because it's draining physically, mentally, It drains their blood, it drains their magic, and they just need the time to recover. It is not a natural magic, but it is most often combined with death and life magic. With life magic, it's often used to save a life and cast a protection spell upon a bloodline, while with death, it's often used to take a life and cast a curse on a bloodline. Now, soul magic is technically counted as a spiritual magic, but it is it's rare to be a natural magic, although we will see a lot of it in the series because those are the characters I focus on. They instead of just magic, although magic is often involved being used as the energy source to cast the spell, a person's own soul is used. Now the soul has a different energy to magic, and it's typically used most soul spells are typically used as a last resort to protect or harm the spell that Mia Enar's daughter casts in Child of Night Protect the School. It is a soul magic spell. She she knew how to use it. Alec had taught her, and they chose that spell because n- nothing could undo it. Not even Alejandra herself, Alec. She could not undo it, and she is quite literally millions of years old. Not even she could undo that spell. So the only reason a soul spell would come undone is the caster was killed or passes away, or they undo the spell themselves. So Mia later on was able to undo the spell after she woke up in the hospital after her magic explosion later in the book. Now, so the recording of spells, so if you've ever heard of shadow books, they do exist in this universe. There are spells. Nina James, I believe is her last. Yeah, Nina James. She is Amory and Destiny's soulmate. She was using a spell to try to help Destiny get through the transformation that she goes through in Forest Keepers. Big spoiler there. Um, and it was essentially she is able to take the pain, and it's set in Gaelic, so I can't actually pronounce it. Um, but it's in the book. But magic before schools were common was often taught by a single family member. For example, Alec and her cousin Luna were taught by Luna's mother Freya. Spell books tended to be passed down from caster to caster or copied. Um, Alec's mother, Hel, gave her her first spell book when she was a young child, and she put some basic spells and potion recipes in there, but she left the majority of the book blank so that way Alec could later turn on, not turn on, write down and kind of use her own magic to create the book because oftentimes people will record spells using magic so that way a person can look at it and just kind of remember. So after, oh yeah, I skipped a plot point. But there were only two small schools of magic in the world before a school opened in Aquitaine and kickstarted the beginning of the Age of Magic. Now, the Age of Magic pretty much spans from the fall of Zerano, which I will put a map up and kind of point out where Zerano is, which, just off the top of my head, I believe it's somewhere in Africa, is where I put it on the map I made, where I had someone help me make. I put down where everything was. They made it pretty. But the Age of Magic kind of started from the fall of Zerano to um, Zerano's rise. So there was a period of time where Zerano wasn't really in existence, but they've always hated magic. But after schools became common, children tended to learn from family until the age of 6, and then were sent off to learn at the school closest to home. The school in Aquitaine is the most sought after school, so it it's the equivalent to like a boarding school because it's so old. People tended to send their kids there, and they even teach adults who weren't able to attend the school as children. For example, Jasmine Sonetta and Michael Collins weren't able to go as children, so they attended that school in their 20s. But Sophia Leone and Henry Torres went as children, although Sophia, due to her family history and she had actually a couple family members who were, I'm talking too fast. She had a couple family members who were professors, so she had a head start. So she was a couple classes above Henry, even though they were the same age, which is why they don't meet until Child of Night. He knew of her though, because she was pretty like popular in school and she had a good record. I had to drink some hot chocolate. But the rarest professors are Mind, Soul, and Death/Dark professors because of how difficult it is for those casters to survive infancy and childhood. They're often plagued by sickness and magical outbursts that can kill them. If I should have mentioned this earlier, but if a person has family members who have mastered that magic and have it as their natural magic, they have a better shot of surviving infancy. For example, with oh God, who was it? Joey Collins, Michael's son. Michael, since he knew Jasmine, was able to get advice from her on how to keep Joey safe. So he was able to until Joey was roughly 5, and then Joey just kind of managed to suppress his emotions until he was old enough to understand how to control his magic. And I did put down, I don't know if I'll read all of these out, but I will kind of show off a few cool um, characters who maybe aren't really mentioned in the main books. But there's 2 slides of this of people's natural magics. But if you'll notice, a lot of the Aang Sangs, so the Royals of Atlantis, I believe I'm saying that correctly, they are various water, wind casters because that's tends to be the most symbiotic sword. That's the most common magic in Atlantis. Mia and Miana are both storm casters or lightning casters, same as Henry and Michael, but they use their magic a lot less. Mia focused on learning more runic and blood and soul magic after she mastered her lightning abilities, and Miana preferred to do physical combat over using her magic, so they never really see it. They never use it. um, Cora, Adrian's first wife, so her maiden name was Daunton, which is, where are they? I think I forgot to put them down on this. They might be in the next slide. But Eslin's children, they are, um, their father, James, is Cora's cousin, and fire magic runs in their family. So some of their kids might have fire magic. But I put down here Luna, Liam, and Hel. So Luna is Alex's cousin. If you look at my Instagram and look at the post about the twin goddesses, and I will make another video to put on here. Luna and Alejandra are goddesses, sort of. Magic chose them, and it's the magic that's worshipped, not necessarily people, but magic chose them to carry on this legacy. Um, so Luna is Alex's cousin, they just took on the same last name, but her natural magic is mind. And in Child of Night, this is brought up by Alexander, Alex's husband. Liam, her father, is his natural magic is life magic, and Hel, her mother, is light. But Alec herself was born as a necromancer, which it's fairly like it's not uncommon to have that one person in the family who is completely different from their relatives. And it's something that in Child of Night, um, Annalie Sneda actually struggles with because her twin, Leanna, and yes, I did this to be annoying, and majority of the family are necromancers or dark or storm magic, whereas Annalie is the only light user other than Sylvia. I didn't give her a last name. I just realized that. But Malastaire's fake girlfriend, I don't know why I did that plotline, I just did. Um, she's light, and that's how that goes. Um, and with astral magic, so Arinda Monet is Alejandra's little sister. She and her husband took on a French last name when last names became common, and her natural magic is star magic. Um, she has mastered Galaxy, but this is just who's born with what. But Alice McAllister is Moon Magic, Rowan is Sun, and Ayala is Star. And I didn't even realize that when I wrote it down, but that's kind of poetic. The moon and sun had a star. Um, but Savannah was learning from Alice before she passed away. And now here's part two. I might have put the shit. I might have said, oh, I spoiled it. God damn it. I might have said the wrong thing for Savannah. I believe I mentioned that hers was fire. I will I will check later. If I said it right, I might have said she was storm. But Savannah's natural magic is fire. And now with Estelle, Savannah's younger sister, her natural magic is ice and snow, but she leans more into her Fey heritage, and their magic is inherently stronger. So while her natural magic was elemental and tended to be a relatively safe magic to be born with, it was so strong due to the Fey genetics that it was even more deadly than being born with death magic. So it nearly killed her, and there were multiple occasions in her childhood where Savannah, Kiranai, or anyone else really had to kind of surround her with fire so the blizzard and all the ice that she was generating while scared wouldn't touch her. Anne Myers, she's Terador's soulmate. Her natural magic's water. Now, Hokalani Affy is Savannah's grandmother. I will make a family tree later, but her natural magic's water. Adria Howden is Catalina's sister. Her natural magic's wind. Elena Marshall is the leader of the Washington tribe, and her natural magic's water. I didn't give Sylvia a last name. But yeah, Catalina, um, or Cat as she's commonly called in Child of Night and onward, she has life magic. Nico Amato is during Child of Night the current leader of the Sonata tribe, and he is necromancy. And Abigail Mancini never shows up in the books, but she's mentioned a couple times. She is Nico's wife. She was killed during an ambush, and her natural magic was dark. And Chiara Amato, their daughter, her natural magic is star. Now, I didn't mean to spoil this, but Thea Yuri, who is Terador Yuri's younger sister, her astral magic, she presents it as moon only, but she was born a galaxy user with the ability to use all three. She's not the first one to be born so, and she wasn't the one that started the legend. I didn't mean to, I forgot I did that. I didn't want to spoil that. Shit. Um, I might as well. But she is a galaxy user, and it comes up later in Little Rose. But I'm kind of leaving this up a little longer, so that way if you want to read through it, you can. But all in all, a person can learn whatever they want. It's just natural magic's the one that they're born with the ability to use. I am hiccuping. Oh, that was a burp. Never mind. Oh, that sounded gross. Really hope the mic didn't pick that up. Um, but some is rarer than others. Astral magic is the rarest alongside mind magic. Most of the spiritual magics can be very fatal if the user isn't watched closely as a child and even as an adult. Um, there were multiple occasions. I don't know how many I'm gonna mention in the book, but in kind of my little lore brain and my notes, there were multiple occasions where Jasmine lost control of her magic after a particularly bad day and a bad mission and just a bad life. She has not had it easy, and it nearly killed her. And natural magic can be different from person to person, even if they have the same magic. So while one might have the same natural magic, it's still going to be different. And one thing that I forgot to mention about light and life magic, although premonitions and visions are typically death magic and mind magic only, a few life users and light users are born with the ability to have premonitions. Um, Alton Verilith a character in Little Rose. He has, I believe, light magic is what I put down. And while his premonitions are very rare, sometimes he will have dreams or nightmares, depending on the severity, where he wakes up knowing what's about to happen, but he can't remember the details. He just knows something's about to happen. And they're very rare, and they happen really only when something very important is about to happen. And the premonitions and visions from necromancers and dark magic users, those tend to be kind of pushed at them from spirits, typically mind users who have died and who can still. Don't interrupt me, Roscoe. He just sighed very loud behind me, you little turd. Um, but it they can still control their visions, but they can't really say what they're seeing, so they'll push them at dark and death users. So, thank you for putting up with me and my rambling about my series. There will be more to come. I'm gonna do a longer video about the religion in the Shadow of Light, about the events and festivals, because there's so much to the lore that I have never really explained, and that most of it won't even really show up in the main books. Although I might do, after I finish this series, a little mini series of the kids and grandkids when they're not really dealing with a big trauma or big conflict, so I get to show off the fun parts of the series more. But stay safe, have a lovely day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!